Why am I so awkward? Hello, and welcome to my 2024 book wrap-up. This was when I really got into my reading, so this is gonna be fun. Since it's only 1 week into 2025, and I've only read 3 books, I'm just gonna review those books too, because I would like to. So I'm gonna grab them off of the shelf and then get to it. And I'm in pajama pants, and that's okay. Okay. I think that's all of them. I also read The Anne of Green Gables, but that's gonna be harder to actually initially get out. So I think I'm gonna leave that up there. This keeps falling. It's annoying me. Okay. So there are a few books that are left on my shelves. Not many. So let's start with this pile that I have on the floor. Let's start there. That seems like a good place to start. Okay, so number 1, Courtesy of Cupid by Nashe Jones. Okay, this is one of the books. Whenever I buy books, I really don't like to read, spice scenes or smut or anything like that. So with this book, I wanted to experience the feeling of just picking up a book off the shelf and just reading it, not knowing anything about it, and just going in blind. Because normally whenever I read YA romance, it almost seems like I need to proofread it to make sure that it's going to be appropriate. So normally whenever I read books, I hardcore Goodreads, hardcore Amazon reviews to make sure that there's nothing bad in it. And so I never get to just go into a bookstore, think that a book cover looks good, or think that it reads interesting. And so I just can't do that. But with this, I did. I just picked it up, read the book jacket, which in this case is on the inside. It's not on the back. And I just read it. But the only problem is it was not the best. So basically, they're 13, and when she turns 13, Erin Johnson, when she turns 13, she gets this magic. She's basically a demigod, and she gets this magic from her dad, Cupid, that she can make people fall in love with her. So she makes her rival at school fall in love with her so that he'll get distracted and not win the president, they're running for president. So she wants him to get distracted and give up the seat for her because he's in love with her. Which was literally wild. These kids are 13 years old and she's manipulating him. And then when he finds out, obviously he's freaking out. And then he's just then they find out that her magic didn't actually work on him and they were just actually falling in love with each other. And yeah, but the other thing that I had a problem with him, if I'm remembering correctly, because I did read another school romance, rivals to lovers, that's next, and I don't exactly remember if I know this correctly, but I do believe his parents are these prestigious doctors who aren't around very much. And so he's kind of suffering in the love department. So it kind of felt awkward to me that he was basically being manipulated using the one thing that he wants most. And also the fact that they're 13 years old, and the fact that they're oh, we're going to be together forever. And when I was 13, I had a fish and we did not live forever together. So I definitely feel like this was one of those awkward, I totally missed the age. Reading this at like 3 years after the characters, I'm not 13 anymore. I feel like I'm better suited to the YA romance, and I'm just gonna have to deal with having to Goodreads things. That's courtesy of Cupid. If you can't tell, I'm a talker. The next one, I hope this doesn't find you. This was one of my like best reads from this year, I swear. It's kind of like if you think about, I don't know, if you think about To All of the Boys I've Loved Before, basically the same thing, except she writes emails about everybody she hates, and she's like this really quiet girl who's like perfect. She's a straight A student. She writes these emails to the people that she hates, and then they get sent out. And basically one of them is about this guy whose name I cannot remember. Julius. Again, bothered me. I can't stand the name Julius. I'm sorry to any people named Julius. It just seemed weird to me, but it's fine. So basically, she emails everybody, and I got a lot of inspiration from this book for the book I'm writing. Just the like scrutiny around her, and how her and Julius are basically fighting like in front of everybody, and they have to bring in counselors to the school because they're like, we have a problem with cyberbullying, even though it's literally just the main girl who's doing it. And it was like completely accidental. But then like everyone's being like really mean. And then I just read that. And everyone's being really mean to her, and he basically falls in love with her throughout it. This was another one of the ones that I read a long time ago, so I don't remember a lot of my opinions on it. But I will say, I would easily recommend this to a lot of people. I think, again, I kind of missed my age on this. I think they are 16, but I also am homeschooled, so it's hard to put myself in the academic station where they're at. Like these past two books, they're very much caring about where they're at in their academic year. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here and I never did 8th grade. I just skipped it because I wanted to. So, like, can't really relate to the fact that they're freaking out about their grades because my grades are laughable. I'm gonna try to stick in the like younger ages, but a whole bunch of my younger books are actually in this massive stack. So we're just gonna The Upside of Falling. Oh, I never said who this was by. This is by Anne Ling. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be racist. The Upside of Falling. This is Alex Light's debut. And this is actually one of the first books that I started to read for my big reading spree. I got very inspired, I'd say August, maybe September, to just read. Like, I had been a reader, you know, I read, but I never was really in my YA until it, like, just struck me one day that I am literally the target audience for most YA books. I am, I would say, young adult. At least where they're at with these books. So this is what really just hit me. This is also her Wattpad debut. So she wrote this on Wattpad and then it got published. And I was very scared about the fact that there might be inappropriate things in this, but there is not. It's just alluded to at the end, actually, which bothered me because, again, I'm like, I really don't want to even have to think about the fact that the characters did that, but it didn't go into detail at all. They were just kind of like, they like followed us to the bedroom door, and then the bedroom door closed and the book ended, you know? So it was like, fine. I also was at the doctor's a lot when I read this. This is when I was going through a like whole weird, like I had an ear infection, so I was at the doctor's like every other day, and I brought this with me. It's also dual POV. and it's Fake Dating. Okay, yeah, so the past two have been Rivals to Lovers. Fake Dating, literally the only reason I bought this, but I fell in love with Alex Light. It's actually so good. Because she doesn't believe in love, and he's been like bitten once before. I would not say this is the best Alex Light book, because it is her debut. But I'm so glad that I got this, because it led me to another Alex Light book, which was actually my favorite read from this year. It is in my pile, but I'm going to sit in suspense for a little bit and review another book. This is by Alex Light. I just said that 4 times, actually. Flop from this year. Because we've had the read bops, so we need a flop now. Exactly Where You Need to Be by Amelia Deanne Combs. I'm not exactly sure. Basically, what struck me about this book is that the main character has OCD, and I have a few family members who have OCD, so I was interested to see how many things that I could recognize or point out, and there really wasn't a lot. That's one of the things that really bothered me about this book. We heard more about the fact that she had OCD than we actually saw. Like, she would say, oh yeah, I just had to get up and lock the door 3 times, because like 3 is her number, and she was like, I just had to get up and lock the door, but we never see her do it. And we never see what would strike me as like symptoms. Like, she just talks about how her mom is really controlling because she got diagnosed, and how she has to get up and lock the door, and that's really it. Like, that's, I think, the one thing that struck me about this book, and the reason I haven't actually reread it since I read it, I haven't even gone through and just like looked at the romance, is because it just really bothered me. And the entire book, a little bit of a spoiler, the entire book is like leading up to something that we actually never get to see happen. The entire book, she's leading up to meeting these 2 people whose podcast she loves, and right whenever she's about to meet them, she doesn't get to meet them. So, like, sorry, that's a really big spoiler. Skip to now if you didn't want to spoil it. I'll put a little thing up. But just the fact that we were leading up to something that we literally never saw happen. I don't know if anyone, this is a really weird reference, but Descendants 4, well, literally just a teenage girl, I'm so sorry. They were just talking about the ball the entire time, and we never saw the ball. Also, this is not a clean book, which I didn't know. Like I said, hardcore proof my books. This apparently slipped through my fingers. And it's actually not that bad. Another book I did read this year was The Love Hypothesis, which is in the stack that I'm sitting next to. That's literally about this high. And it's kind of on the bottom. So we'll get to that in a second. But I did read The Love Hypothesis, so whenever they started to allude, I was like, and then it kind of just talked about her feelings. It didn't go into detail. We kind of just stuck in her head, which is another thing, because it felt like a very normal thing to be thinking. Like, we didn't see her OCD or her mental problems or her mental issues shine like through at all. Like, she was just a normal person. Which, like, maybe I have a distorted view of OCD, but I just totally feel like that would not happen. Like, I am neurodivergent, if you couldn't tell. I feel like I would not be just normal while that was happening to me. But they always say, they do make sure to point that out. He just has condoms in his drawer. Not a red flag at all. Yeah, because he's a player also. Like, he didn't even have them there for her. They were just there because, like, she gave her first time to a guy who's done it like 20 times. Which was just not red flag. We don't like this book. I'm so sorry. I don't like to be negative. Amelia, I'm sure she's written other books. All Alone with You, Between You and Me and the Honeybees, Keep My Heart in San Francisco. I love San Francisco. I read that once, but I don't know. Because I stick with the authors that I like. you'll see that in a very fast moment. But I just, yeah, you know? Yeah. I don't even know if I want to review this one right now because I also read The Bodyguard by Katherine Center. I actually read that one first, and then I got this because she had, because I liked The Bodyguard, so then I got the rom-coms. You can tell it's still in the hardback. I don't know if it's paperback now, but when I got it, it was still in the hardback, which annoys me because I literally do not have a lot of hardbacks in my book collection at all. It's on this shelf also. I had to make that shelf taller so that this could be in my rainbow gradient for my books. But oh my gosh. Sorry, this isn't a silent review. Words. I don't even know what to say. Okay, here's my thing. She has to take care of like a sick parent. And one of the things that really got me about it was that it really felt like 27 dresses for literally no purpose, except for the fact that she's been taking care of her father, and like her younger sister, who's kind of like ditzy, has to step up and take care of their dad while she's out of town. And so that just felt like that dynamic of the daughter who, like the younger daughter who's been doing nothing, and the older daughter who like has been struggling since their mom passed and took care of raised the other daughter. I just thought of their characters the entire time. I don't even know if her younger sister is blonde, but in my brain she is. She's just that girl from 27 Dresses, and I'm fine with that. I literally never remember this guy's name. No, he's Charlie Yates. I was about to say, is he Chris Stapleton? But I'm pretty sure that's the other book. I loved this book. I kind of just went through and read the entire thing. I stayed up late to read it, and that does not happen a lot. And I remember that whenever the plot twist happened in the end, my poor mother, I kept turning to her and being like, oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah just happened. And she'd be like, oh. And then I'd be like, oh, actually, blah, blah, blah just happened. And the poor woman, she could not keep up. And that was just because I could not keep up with this book. I was like, what is happening? Oh my gosh. Also, the other plot twist, I was about to freak out because I thought that I had accidentally not proofed a book good enough. But then my boy, he was like, no. That kind of hurt. I don't know why. I was like, I don't like reading smut, but in that moment when he rejected her, I was like, what the heck? I literally would have been okay with it if you had just gone ahead. But it's fine. Good one. I actually gave this book to my sister for her birthday, which I don't do a lot because I kind of hate the idea that other people are reading the same books as me, because then I just look at them and I'm like, you know what I know. And just no other reason except for the fact that my life is completely changed. And whenever I know that other people have read the same thing, I'm like, we went through the same thing. You know the things that lie beneath this book jacket. And basically, she said that she hasn't read it yet because since the main girl is a writer and I'm a writer, somewhere in her brain, she connected the two of us. So now she doesn't want to read this because she's like, what if I just picture you the entire time? And I'm like, why did you do that? This is my favorite book. I gave it to you purposely so that you would read it. And now you can't read it because you thought of me. I also gave her Dance of Thieves, again, in this stack. I will get there. And I was like, why couldn't you have read this instead of Dance of Thieves? It's fine. My first ever Christina Lauren. No. Just no. Just simply no. I think there's actually something wrong with me because I did not like this book. And I've heard everybody raving about Christina Lauren. No. It's based off Tangled, and I just can't even talk about it. I had to put this down 3 times. It became one of those things that I just didn't want to get through it anymore, and I literally just got through it because I was waiting for the big moment at the end. It's hard to write books based off of movies, because you're always thinking about those characters, and you're always somewhat holding them to the standard that those characters carry with them. And I feel like at the end, she should have been so traumatized, and she totally wasn't. Which bothered me, because I felt like the only reason she liked the main guy in this book was because she had gone through so much literal crap that she was like trying to ignore it by being with him. And I don't know if that was purposeful. I don't even know if that was what was happening. But that is what my brain got out of it. So it doesn't even really matter, because that's just what happened. You know? I'm like, I don't know if this is just what my brain did. But it doesn't matter what it actually meant, because that's what I thought about it. It doesn't matter what actually happened, because I'm never going to convince myself that this isn't a very weirdly red flag book. Also, the fact that she was warned that he was a player and tried to get in women's pants and then got into her pants. Not in the book. But, you know, yeah. I'm sorry. I haven't read any other books by Christina Lauren, but this was just left a bad taste in my mouth. Also, his name is Edward. Eugene is so much better. I'm like, I feel like that was supposed to be a big reveal that Flynn's actual name was like, oh my gosh, his name's Eugene. But going from Fritz to Edward, I'm sorry, Twilight, I'm good. The Do-Over. Actually, I should probably start with Better Than the Movies, because that's the book that I read first. Better Than the Movies. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. I watched Elise Meyer's book review of this, and then I watched Haley Pam's book review of this. So the hype was never going to be up to what this book was. The hype was just way too high, because I had seen 2 people raving. I mean, raving about how good it was. And my standards are so much worse than I feel normal people's standards are. My standards, they can't even be measured, because as soon as I think something is good, it has to be that good. I get so obsessive over things that I like that I just, to get to that level, has to be perfection. And this just wasn't for me. Not the fact that it was bad. It wasn't bad. I love Lynn Painter. You'll see. I have 3 other books by her. But no. The main character bothered me kind of freaking a lot. And I'm just... That's my opinion. I just tried to read a part of it to see if I'm just being completely tweaking. But no. It's actually... I just can't. You know what I mean? You probably don't. But that's what I mean. The main character bothered me because she's just like... I feel like she hasn't really understood her mother's passing. And so it bothered me kind of a lot that... I don't know how I'm going to say this. It bothered me that she went out of her way to make sure that she never got over it. Like, I haven't lost a parent, but she doesn't go to therapy. She doesn't try to grasp that or even I really feel like soaking in. Like, I always say that everyone processes on their own time. Everybody's going to grasp what actually happened and make their amends with it in their own way. But she felt like she was just really avoiding. And as an avid avoider, I get it. But it stood in the way of everything in this book. And I know that Lynn Painter writes her books with a lot of hidden layers and a lot of things that were happening. And I feel like she's very good at not making them such a main part of the book. But this was such a main part of the book. I can't remember what the main character's name is. Wes. His name's Wes. I don't remember the name Wes. All I remember about this book is the mom's dying. And maybe the car kiss. But that's it. Also, the fact that they had, like, quotes from movies in the beginning. And in the beginning of every chapter was a stand for that. I love that. But being called better than the movies, their romance, really didn't feel better than the movies. The Do-Over. This was my Lynn Painter book. I feel like everybody has their Lynn Painter book that they really like. This was my Lynn Painter book. I love this book. It's actually probably the only Groundhog Day that I actually like. I have read a couple Groundhog Days in my youth and was so not for it at all. I just hate Groundhog Days with a burning passion. This was the best Groundhog Day I've ever read in my entire life. I loved all the Taylor Swift lyric quotes. I loved everything so much. I even reread a lot of this just in pieces because I was like, oh, I want to see how she feels about that. Like when I got my first tattoo, my only tattoo actually, I reread this part when she got her tattoo and I was like, oh, that's totally what I was thinking before I passed out. But that's what I was thinking when I was getting my tattoo. The Bodyguard. I hate looking at pictures. That's not what he looks like. That is not what Jack looks like. Look, I remember the name Jack. I think I called him Chris earlier. I'm sorry about that. It was so good. Oh my gosh. I was such a fan of this book, actually. The boyfriend slash ex-boyfriend really ticked me off. It was sad that she didn't get to go to Korea, especially since they were talking about it the entire book. But it was so good. Oh my gosh. The ending, like the plot twist, out of this world. Oh, it was kind of almost the most crazy thing that I've ever read in my entire life. Again, there was like the subplot of what am I trying to say? Let me put my thoughts together. The subplot of grief and having to get over like a massive, like the themes that she brings to her books, I feel like are literally insane. This book made me like afraid of bridges. Like I can't even. And she also writes PTSD and like survivor's guilt, spoilers and so well. Like I didn't at like once have to suspend belief and think, actually I don't think he would think that once. Okay, ready? I know we're like literally 30 minutes into this. It's gonna be way longer when I get this stacked. This was my 2024 book. It's not me, it's you. Holiness. I'm holding holiness in my hands. I think this came from Jesus. And I mean that. I want this book literally, like, I want it on an IV and I want it to go into my bones. I'm gonna give this book to every single one of my children that I ever have. I'm gonna place this book on the shelf and the very bottom rung so that they can read it whenever they so choose. I'm going to make my boyfriend, my husband, my soulmate, everybody that I ever loved in my entire life, I wish that I could make them read this book. I think of this book so often when I'm writing my book. I actually think I'm going to lose it. This is why I'm glad that I read Falling For You, because it made me get this book. This was one of the books. We went to the store before we went to dinner, and I just picked it off the shelf because I was like, Alex Light doesn't write smart. Oh my gosh. The ending, oh my gosh. The floppiness, like, this was such a good book. I cannot even explain it. I'm gonna go crazy. I'm so down bad for Wilson. He reminds me so much of somebody that I literally used to work with. I wrote this after a huge, like, bunch of drama at my job. I'm gonna start crying. This is literally such a good book. Such a good book. When I finished it, I was like, I had to literally just not do anything with my life. This put me in such a book slump because I was like, nothing is going to be this good. This is my holy grail. My holy grail right here. I want this to be buried with me when I die. I thought The Bodyguard was my favorite book. Absolutely, positively not. I would suggest this over my dead body. I would rather literally, like, sit in a pile of snakes than forget that this book ever existed. I would rather, like, go to the dentist than ever having this book not exist. It's kind of just, like, absolutely crazy. When I'm done this video, I'm just gonna go sit there and read this because I just want to, like, feel it again. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let me pick these up because I really don't want to go through this first, because those are my 2025 reads technically. This year I read Percy Jackson's Greek Heroes, because I already read Percy Jackson and the Heroes of Olympus. This actually, did I ever actually finish it? I think I read Greek Gods first, and then I read Greek Heroes, and this sat on my shelf unread. It had, like, literally this much left in it, and I couldn't finish it. My Percy Jackson streak ended. I couldn't do it. But this is also whenever I was in my bookie stage, kind of. So, yeah. But I don't know. It kind of was weird because I know Greek mythology. So really I was just there for the Percy Jackson, like, quirks and interruptions almost. And I don't know. I don't think that's what you should lead into this book reading. But I'm also like, you need to know Greek mythology to read it. I don't think this should be your, like, introduction to Greek mythology at all. I don't know. Greek Heroes. I read this one first. I just said that. I thought this was gold. I thought this was amazing. I was blown away. That's why I got the Greek Heroes book. And it just kind of didn't do it for me. But I was such a fan of this. It literally, like, blew me away. Good book. I'd suggest it if you read Percy Jackson. I wouldn't suggest it if you hadn't read Percy Jackson. I think this is a nice little add-on. I wasn't, like, it didn't give me the same feelings as Percy Jackson. It just felt like a fun little like thing that I would read and then put down. You know, I'm not gonna reread this because I know the gods. I know Percy Jackson. It's kind of, you know, what are you gonna do? Then I read, which one did I read first? Okay. I read Chalice of the Gods. I've been looking at this for a while because I knew it was a new Percy Jackson book, and I was like interested in it. And then it kind of bothered me. Annabeth and Percy, the Percabeth in this felt way off. It just felt like their group again, but nothing had changed. And I think that's maybe what he was thinking. I think a couple people, maybe, I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel, I wouldn't be surprised if people were complaining that they hadn't seen the core three in a while. And then he decided to write this book because, I don't know. There was just something about it. I got this for my birthday and then didn't read it for like 2 weeks. And I was like, I just don't know if it was something that I was like, this is Percy Jackson, it's going to be good. And then it wasn't, and that bothered me. But I also went into it wanting so much Percabeth and felt like they were just friends again. And I didn't know if he did that on purpose because I was like, maybe people are just like, they don't feel like friends anymore, but that's because they're dating. So they just felt like they were buds. I didn't get any romantic tension from them at all. And that was so sad coming from Heroes of Olympus when they literally fell into Tartarus together. Wait, Tartarus? Yes, Tartarus. That sounded so much like the sauce in my head, and I don't know why. Then I read Wrath of the Triple Goddess. I actually read the Chalice of the Gods maybe a week or two before this came out because my birthday's in September. I think this came out the 24th. I don't know if I remember correctly, but that means that I read it. I think I read the Chalice of the Gods, finished it, and then like a week later this came out. So it was still fresh in my brain, but I literally have the exact same thoughts about this book as I did the other one. It just fell off for me, and I don't know why. Flop? Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Farwell. I haven't been saying who's been writing these. It's fine. Well, we know that. We know him. And Catherine Center wrote that. It's fine. This is by Heather Fawcett. Fawcett? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I can't read. But I never finished this. I got maybe 10, 20 pages in, and I couldn't do it. I even skipped through it trying to find the romance, and I don't think I found it. And I'm sure that the romance is in here, but I was trying really hard to convince myself that I could do fantasy romance. And that entire shelf up there is fantasy romance that I haven't read yet because of this book making me actually not think that I could do it. I can't do subplots of romance because the romance needs to be the only thing I'm reading. And I never finished this. Speaking of never finishing books, I never finished Dance of Thieves either. And I know this is so not a subplot of romance because in the beginning, it's literally the only thing being shoved down your throats. But I'm not a fan of flings, and I'm not a fan of kind of being friends with benefits almost. Like, they're literally just still together because he needs to prove that he's a good person and she needs to prove that she's not a spy. Even though she's a spy and she's actively spying, well, like, also weirdly offing. They're very on and off. They're on whenever people are watching and they're off, but then they're together and secret and they're sometimes together, and I don't know what page I got to. 291. I also was trying to listen to the audiobook of this. The audiobook is magnificent. I'm in love with his voice in this. What is his name? Jace. Was obsessed with Jace's voice, literally. But then I kept on and off and on and off, And then whenever they were like really kissing, I had to be listening to it, and I was like pacing back and forth and couldn't get anything done because I was like, oh my gosh. As Old as Time. This is a rewriting of The Beauty and the Beast, and I got 54 pages into it. I don't even know why this is in this pile because I never read it. So, don't know. I kind of feel like I have a brain block on this for literally no reason. But yeah. Instant Karma by Marissa Meyer. I will read almost anything by Marissa Meyer. The only reason I say that is because the only thing I haven't read by Marissa Meyer is Ferris, Gilded, and the Gilded sequel, which I don't know the name of. Okay, so I actually read, I'm going to be truthful here, I actually read With a Little Luck first, and then read Instant Karma because I didn't know that they were like a duo, because this follows this one girl, and then this follows the girl's brother. But I don't even think I needed to read this one first because I didn't even get confused. Like, they were talking about Quint and Prudence, and I was just like, okay. Yeah, okay. So this one, as soon as I opened it, the font size scared the bejesus out of me. I was like, I'm not gonna be able to read it. I'm not gonna be able to read it. I'm not gonna be able to read it. I was freaking out because I was like, the font size. But it was so good. When they get together and then they like the plot twist. Crazy. I didn't even see it coming. Normally I can see it coming. I feel like I've gotten smarter over the years. That's, wow, really? You get smarter as you age? I feel like I've been getting smarter more by reading more plotty, twisty books. But wow, I didn't even know that Marissa Meyer could write YA, because I had read, you can't see it very well, I read Belinda Chronicles when I was a young child. With a Little Luck. This is going to be easier to talk about because I read this one first. Firstly, I got a signed copy. I'm sure a lot of people did. But it kind of like freaked me out. This is the book that I gave to my close friend who is male. We're not dating. I gave this to him because he's a big fan of D&D. I am personally not a fan of D&D. I'm not allowed to technically play it because of my religion. So I've just never been a fan, but I don't really want to play it anyway. So I've just read this, didn't get a lot of the references to D&D in it. I liked the comic books a lot. I liked that it had comic books in it. And again, I read this one not knowing anything about Instant Karma. I didn't know that they were, like the Beatles thing completely caught me off guard. I was like, I started listening to the Beatles whenever I was reading these. I made a playlist for Instant Karma and With a Little Luck. That's how you really know I'm into a book. This was a good book. I want to say that I didn't like who that one friend of his ended up with. The one friend with the really dramatic dyed hair. I don't remember his name, but he ended up with the girl that you didn't end up with. And I don't know, I think a part of me always just thought that character is a little fruity. So when he ended up with a girl, I was just like, especially a girl like her. And I don't even think that I don't even know if they ended up together, if they were endgame. But it seemed like, I remember them hinting at something. And I was just like, no. So yeah. Then we have Betting on You by Lynn Painter. How far am I into this? I'm 214 pages into this and didn't finish it. This is actually might be going on my DNF officially. I never tried to officially DNF anything. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia did get DNF'd. But this one, I probably will end up trying to go back to again, but it's been like 5 tries, honestly. I read this at camp, and I feel like doing that kind of messed me up because I was caught up in the like euphoria of being at camp. Like every single day we're doing something, there's camp crushes. Like I got somebody's number from that camp. Didn't work out, TMI. But I don't know, just something about it. Is his name Charlie? Yeah, Charlie. It felt like it was moving so fast. Also, I don't have divorced parents, so I was very confused on the like feelings there. Like the fact that they connected over something that I had no understanding of, I think is what turned me off, because it felt so fast. Like they decided to fake dating, they decided to fake date, and then he went with her on a ski trip like what felt like 2 days later. Like literally so fast. And I feel like there's just a level of fake dating that I'm not a huge fan of. Also, I'm assuming that someone put a bet on her. We haven't gotten there yet, but that's just awful. Like I watched 10 Things I Hate About You and absolutely hated it, because no matter how cute they are by the end, it still started with him getting paid or like betting on her. And I just hate that. It feels like they're taking advantage of a woman, and I don't know. Lynn Painter kind of fell off on this one. And I won't say it's bad, but it just wasn't for me. A novel love story. I don't know what happened with this book. Destiny Sidwell and Haley Pam, who I feel like are 2 pretty big TikToker and like YouTube book people, said that they did not like this book at all. And I was actually like a huge fan. I don't know. I definitely agree with the fact that the only thing that we know about the guy is that he has mint colored eyes. Like if you read this book and took a shot every time they said the word minty or mint, pass out on the floor. Probably overdose. And it wasn't clean. Like they did it under a waterfall. Which just really bothered me. I also read this unknowing and in front of my dad. So I'm just standing there like trying to ignore him sitting next to me. I couldn't scream. I couldn't be like, oh my gosh. I couldn't react at all. Also, the reveal at the end, it felt so disrespectful. No. Oh, good golly. The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. Oh yeah, that was by Ashley Poston. I don't read smut. This was like one of the first books that I ever read. I can't even say anything about it. My brain tried so hard to black this book out, and here I am trying to remember things about it. Assault. Very descriptive. Hokey pokey. And more assault. She assaults someone, she's assaulted, and there was so many things that were like triggering me in this book that by the end I was like glad it was over. I have a paper clip in it for if I ever so choose to reread it, so that I can skip the hokey pokey. 20 pages. 20 pages. That I have to literally paper clip together so that I can get through it. And just be like, okay, goodbye. And the fact that she's sitting in the bathroom on the floor with the sink water and the shower running so she didn't have to hear the voice of the guy who assaulted her. If I had gone to my therapist after reading this book, we would have just talked about it the entire session, because I was not mentally okay. I would never suggest this to anybody. It's just not for me. I know a lot of people who have loved Ali Hazelwood, swear by her. I would not give this to a person if I cared about them. Which is so mean. I'm so sorry, but Moving on to another book that I never actually finished. This is actually the anthology to the Twisted Tales. There's another book of the Twisted Tales in here. This is the anthology, and I haven't seen a lot of the Disney movies that are actually in this, so I obviously couldn't finish it. If I've never seen Bambi, how am I supposed to read a rewriting of Bambi? So maybe I'll watch all of the movies in here and then come back to it. I did read the Cinderella one. So I read the one about Anastasia. I read the one about Anastasia. Such an awful human. Okay. I actually thought about giving this book away. Every Other Weekend by Abigail Johnson. Okay, so here's the truth. I accidentally read the name of this girl's, I accidentally read her name wrong. And I have a friend of, I used to have a friend whose name I misread it as. So every single time I opened this book, I thought of my friend. Which, I don't even think that's where this went wrong for me. It's literally 500 pages, and toward the end, I don't know where I stopped reading. I think it was whenever she moved away. Oh yeah, this is about, their parents are divorced. Again, with a divorce that I don't understand. And they only get to see each other every other weekend because their parents live in a, apartment building, and they have joint custody, so they only get to see each other when they're with the other parent. Basically, she gets assaulted in the book. We see it happen, and after that, I couldn't pick it up again. I was, just trying to skip through it to find something happy, couldn't find anything happy, put it down, had to, this book made me stop reading. I had a whole bunch of these books. I had Hope This Doesn't Find You. I had, Falling For You. I had Exactly Where You Need to Be, all on my shelf. And this book made me stop and think, do I really want to be a book reader? I was going to give this to somebody to take away. I was going to be like, oh, Merry Christmas. I don't want to put you through this, but I just don't want it anymore. But I ideally want to have all of the books that I've ever read on my shelves. So I have to keep this. But I'm literally never going to open it again. Never going to give it to anybody. I'm not even going to try to read it again because I just could not. And we're moving on now because I can't even. Okay. Ugh. Oh my gosh. I read The Sun and the Star by, what's his name? Rick Riordan and Mark Oshiro. This book, I had to keep from my parents because it's Nico and Will. Which, here's my thing. I literally loved them in Heroes of Olympus. I just love the black cat golden retriever energy. And I kind of, low-key could not tell anybody that I was reading this book because, again, it's not really religious beliefs. but it was so good. I was like absolutely okay with that, the fact that it was two guys, because I was like, I just love this book. And I think we're getting a sequel. Oh my gosh, the plot twist at the end. I love Bob. I'm such a fan of Bob. Was sobbing. The like change in the pages, like the pages get this like, oh my gosh, I had to carry it around without the cover on to avoid being yelled at. Oh my gosh, we're getting to the end. We're so close. Another Twisted Tale, this one by Liz Braswell, but Once Is Minus is a retelling of Rapunzel. If you couldn't tell, I'm a fan of Rapunzel, but this one was done right. I swear I was so down bad for so many of the characters in this book. I couldn't even. It's kind of, I think that she wrote it after the Rapunzel the series came out, because a lot of the characters in this reminded me of Rapunzel the series. This one is kind of different because it's almost breaks the fourth wall. It's about this girl who's getting cancer treatment, and she really likes Rapunzel and Tangled. So her brother like retells her the story during her chemo, and that's the story that we get in here. So it kind of like broke the fourth wall for me. So every single time we were like reading the rewrite of the Tangled story, I was like, this isn't real. This is just a story that he's making up in his brain. So that kind of broke a lot of the things for me. Also, the romance in this didn't feel as like deep and pure. So I think that bothered me. Okay, moving on. I'm starting to lose my crap. It's been an hour. This year, I read The Hunger Games. So, basically, I watched the first movie, read the first book, watched the second movie, read the second book, watched the last two Mockingjays, read Mockingjay, watched Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, read that much. I couldn't get through this. But let me just go book by book. The Hunger Games, just the first one. It was unexpectedly different than the movie, obviously. This is actually the only book to date that I've ever annotated, because I was really suffering. I was really struggling to get through this book. So I started annotating it because I was like, maybe that'll make me want to read it more. And it actually did work. I did annotate it in the car sometimes. So there's a few pages that have the spots where we hit a couple bumps in the road. I also ran out of my highlighter ran out of ink. So I had to get a whole new pack so that I could continue annotating this. Such a fan. The ending is so different than the book. It literally shadowed me. I feel like the movie ending did not do this justice at all, because I was like, okay, I'm ready for him to be like, see ya forever, peace, so unemotional, so detached. It felt kind of like a weird ending in the movie. I was pacing. My mom almost took the books away from me because I was not okay. Catching Fire is my favorite movie, of all of them, probably. I'm such a fan. I love Finnick. That's all I'm going to say about that. Finnick and Annie's story. I know we are getting Haymitch's story in March. I'm probably going to buy that. But this is the best book. Again, love it. Mockingjay. It's okay. I don't have a lot of annotating in this book, I feel like. Oh, that's crazy. I actually annotated the, what's it called? Acknowledgements. Because I was, like, literally sobbing on the floor. I don't know why they split this up into 2 movies. Because it really wasn't that long at all. Probably the shortest out of all of them. Like, literally only, like, 400 pages. Craziness. This one was just so long. I liked the movie a lot. I was a fan of the movie. But this. My bookmark is still in there. And I don't know if I'm ever going to go back to it. Maybe when I'm older. Okay, time for my 2025 reads. Oh, wait, no, sorry. I have a book that's not on my shelf. What's it called? And my phone's recording, so I can't even look it up. It's by the same person who wrote Give Me a Sign. I think it's called... I can see the cover. Oh my gosh, I'm going to cry. What's it called? On the Bright Side. On the Bright Side. I don't know the author. I'll put a picture of it right here. The slow burn into what it would be, what it was going to be. I took ASL for 2 years, maybe 3, so I picked up things here and there, but I just loved this book, actually. I got it from the library, that's why it's on my shelf, but I really ideally want to get it on my shelf as soon as humanly possible. But yes, that's the one that I read. That's not on here. Oh, I also tried to read Dash and Lily's Book of Dares. And because I watched this series on Netflix and I just couldn't do it. I just can't do a lot of things, apparently.